Hi guys, and welcome to another video from Stupid is the Norm, the channel where we demonstrate how to become a millionaire in 10 years. And in this video I'm going to explain to you how to become a billionaire. Imagine it, a billionaire, £1,000 million. It's a staggering amount and difficult to imagine. And some people are obsessed. I wouldn't say I was obsessed, but I do enjoy watching programs on TV that demonstrate or show their lavish lifestyles, their sprawling villas and their super yachts. And I often wonder how it is they make them. How do they generate that money to make £1 billion? Because I figure that if I knew how to do it, then I too could be a billionaire. But how they make their money now really is a bit of a distraction, because it doesn't help us find out how they became billionaires. It just tells us how they're spending the money right now. And once you're a multimillionaire, it becomes actually difficult not to become a billionaire. If, let's say, you have only 100 million, and you're getting 10% on it a year, well, you're making 10 million a year. That's almost £1 million a month. And at that rate, you'd become a billionaire in 23 years, should you have the time. And then once you're a billionaire and you're still getting 10%, then, well, you're making 100 million a year. You can see how it becomes difficult, almost impossible, not to get wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. But again, it's a distraction. So we know how they're making their money now. It's compound interest. But to find out how to become billionaires, you have to go right back to the beginning, when they started with nothing. Because right back then, when they had nothing, they did something very different to what most people do. They did something quite special that set them off on a trajectory that took them somewhere that most people don't even imagine they can get to. Now, naturally, I can't give you the full history or how every billionaire in the world started, but I can tell you what they weren't doing rather than what they were doing. I'll tell you what they weren't doing. They weren't spending all the money. They weren't going for weekends or holidays in Benidorm with the lads. They weren't buying cars and houses to impress other people. Instead, what they most likely were doing was working hard and saving some of the money from their business and investing it in either another business, in stocks and shares, in property. Finding ways to make their money that they work very hard for work as hard as they do and accelerate faster, so they become wealthier and wealthier and wealthier, faster and faster and faster. Now, obviously, that's not how everybody did it. There'll be some who inherited it, but they are the minority. And I checked the Forbes 500 list, which is the American most wealthiest 500 people in their nation. And of the Forbes 500, 75% of the people started with nothing. Yes, some inherited it, some won it even, but 75% of them started with nothing, much the same as you and I start with nothing. So if they can do it, then why can't we? We just have to replicate what it was they did back then to make them so special and so different. Now, back then, they probably would have appeared a little different. When I say appeared, they would have behaved a little different. They would be single-minded, probably didn't have many friends, except for a few special ones who they shared their dreams with. And dreaming is important, I believe, because dreaming is the way you form goals. Dreaming is the way you can create your future. But dreaming isn't enough, because once you've got your dream and you've developed a goal, you then need a plan to achieve that goal. Because if you have a goal but you don't have a plan, you don't really have a goal at all. What you have is a wish, and as a grown-up, as I've said many times before, wishes don't come true. We know that as grown-ups. So they would have been very different back then. So armed with their goal and a plan to achieve their goal, they took one step towards that goal. One step, and then another step, and then another step. And gradually over time, their paths diverged from those people around them as they got further and further separated from them by taking one step at a time. If they hadn't saved the first £100, they would never have become billionaires. But remember, almost all of them, 75% of them, started with nothing, just like you and I. You have to take that one step. So what I want you to do today, guys, if you haven't done it, is thank you very much, by the way, for watching these videos, but it's time to take action and make yourself a little different today and take one step on that path that's going to diverge you from the rest of the herd. If you haven't already got some savings put aside right now, I want you to put £100 aside. If you've got £100 aside, that's good, well done. You're one step on the road. But let's take another step. Why don't you open a Vanguard account today and put it in an ISA, stocks and shares ISA. I use the VWRL, that's the code you put in to find the ISA that I invest in, but there are a whole plethora of ISAs there you can choose to invest in different parts of the world, different markets, different industries. If you can sometime this week, just go on the website, and if you've got £100, just put £100 in there, and that'll be your first step, or maybe your second step, but it's a step all the same. And just like how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, you have to take these small steps. Don't be put off, because it will take you some time, but you will get there eventually if you give it enough time and if you keep taking those steps. So start being a billionaire today, just like they did maybe 23 years ago. Don't be stupid, don't be normal, guys.